Hi everyone! As a first actual episode of my devlog, I thought it would be interesting to share what's my workflow for creating new elements for the game. I'm sure some will share a similar approach, while others will have a completely different one. Let me know in the comments, what is your approach when it comes to making new content for your game? When I decide to make something new, it's always in 3 phases, and always in this order. First, I think about the functionality and name and usually note it down on paper. I then make the sprite for it, and finally I code it into the game. While the first step is pretty straightforward, I think that for many people the second and third steps are inverted. The reason I do it this way is that I can feel more passionate about the element I'm creating. Let me go into a little more detail for each step. I usually think about elements in groups. For example, a new set of cards or a new set of blessings, which are the equivalent of the relics in Slay the Spire. Everything I've made so far needed to make sense to me. Needs a name that reflects, well, what the card or blessing does. Blessings need to have a name that makes sense with what they do. And also I am envisioning them so that they're never items but rather powers or abilities or attributes. As for cards, I usually plan them as a set with similar themes. If I make one card that uses a new mechanic, let's say discarding a card, I will then make a set of at least 2 or 3 cards that share the same mechanic. I will probably get into more detail about how I have been designing cards in a future video. That being said, I sometimes end up with ideas that probably make sense only to me, or are an inside joke between me and myself. Why does a banana give you 5 evasion charges? Because a banana peel is slippery. Once I have a name and a function, I then move to making the art. For blessings, it's pretty straightforward. Some of them are more abstract than others. Having a 12-pixel canvas forces me to be creative with very little space. I think that the most important thing is that they should look quite different from each other. As for cards, I have various template layers ready in Sprite. I just activate the right ones, for example card type or rarity, and then draw in the middle. I find that I manage to make nice looking and easily understandable cards in just a few minutes sometimes, while other times it takes me way longer than it should. For enemies, it's a little more complex. My game only has idle animations at the moment, and it's probably gonna stay that way. I can't really afford to make separate attack or death animations for each enemy as a solo dev. I first draw a complete, nice looking frame that is gonna be the base for the idle animation. I usually draw it in different layers, where I know that I will need to make different parts move independently from each other. The way I need to animate them depends a lot on the design. For some, just moving the pieces around pixel by pixel gets most of the work done, while with others I need to redraw big chunks of the sprite for every frame. I usually aim for 9 to 12 frames for the whole idle animation, but I don't have a specific rule on that. For enemies, I've never drawn concept art. I just have a general idea in my head and go with the flow while making pixel art. Sometimes they look nice from the start, sometimes they look like crap and I need to remake them. Finally, once I have a name and visuals, I can move to coding. At this point in the project, it's getting quite easy. Unless I need to make new mechanics from scratch, I can copy and paste most of what makes either cards or blessings or enemies. As an addition, when coding all the functions, I also need to write names and descriptions for everything to be used in tooltips. I'm making the game in English and Japanese at the same time, so this step is always doubled. Finally, I test what I've made, and I have to say that recently I managed to make things work on the first try, for the most part. But in some cases I stumble upon a bug that takes me forever to fix. Of course, when I make something new, there's always the risk that I break something somewhere else. Especially with cards interactions, there may always be some combination of factors that I didn't think about, so I usually need to make a few runs to be sure nothing breaks too easily. And that's it! I have recently made an update with 8 new blessings. Considering that I had more than 50 already, I wasn't planning on making any new one for the demo, but recently I noticed that, especially for the rare ones, the pools were too limited and I would find the same ones too often. I also needed to take a break from doing marketing related stuff, and the easiest thing to make is usually the blessings. If you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment, send me some pizza at this address, and most importantly, wishlist my game if you haven't already. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Bye!